Mental health is a really big issue in the real estate or property industry. Last year, we found that 42%, 2/5 of agents suffer from issues with their mental health, and many hadn't seen it improve in the year following. In the population, it's just 25%. So, Megan, how do you explain it? How do we even address this much higher level of mental health issues?
Oh, well, we talked about this last year when we did the same panel, didn't we? And it's pretty devastating stat, I think. So Toby and I, and yourself, we're part of the Property Mark Trust, and we have seen a massive increase in grants being provided for therapy, which, you'd be absolutely gobsmacked for all the different reasons that we end up giving those grants out. But I think it just shows that it's actually a very isolating industry. We joke a lot about us being like untrustworthy and voted so poorly in terms of public perception. I don't know about you, but when I go to a wedding and someone says, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" I go, I work in property, but I never want to be like, "Oh, I'm an estate agent." And I think that's because there's a slight connotation of you don't want that, because we've all had it. I think the stress that we are under is massively underestimated. Alongside that, as an industry, we wear burnout like a badge of honor. And it's like the amount of LinkedIn posts I see where I'm like, yeah, I'm at the office still, it's 10 o'clock at night. No, we shouldn't be celebrating that. That's not a healthy balance to life. And we have to find a way of finding that balance. And I think that what we're seeing in this next generation coming through is that they won't take that. And I love that.
Devil's advocate question. Who wants to take the question which came up in last year's discussion at a previous video, not the one we had, about what about the stiff upper lip?
I mean, come on, we're past this by now.
Yeah.
We really are. And I get the sense of having to be, tough and resilient within business. Yes, of course. But we have to embrace and accept vulnerability. We have to feel capable and able to ask for help and to accept it. I think that to put a more positive perspective on this, I think it is fantastic how there are now more prevalent support groups within the industry. We are an industry that is extremely supportive of one another. And if you are able to ask for and accept help, then you will get it through one of the many avenues that are available to you. So I think that's wonderful.
I think this is a generational thing. And it's a little bit like when I look at parenting, like I see Toby, I see Chris, I see you guys online when you're with your kids at the weekend. That is normal. That as dads, you are, embracing being dads, and you're out there and you're doing the school runs and you're doing the ballet classes and all of those amazing things. Decades ago, that wouldn't have happened. Is that a good, positive change that now men feel that they can be part of a child's growth and development at an early stage? I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing. And I think that with that evolution of things just as simple as parenthood, we're seeing now a generation of people that are more invested in their emotions and how that's reflecting against their little people that are running around with them. Now, the stiff upper lip thing, there is absolutely a need for resilience. We all have to put that little cloak of protection on when we go to work and you've got people shouting at you. I don't see people sitting in the office sobbing every time a vendor shouts at you because someone, treaded mud on their carpet. No, that's not what happens. But us absolutely ignoring our mental health because they want it to look a certain way or that's what they think should happen is totally outdated, and it deserves to be.
Chris?
I think one of the biggest problems I think with modern society is the lines are blurred. Where certainly, when I started my career in news, I went to work, I did my job, and then I came home again. And then the next day I went to work and I did the same again. Now with all of the methods of communication that we've got, I don't know about the rest of the panel, but, I can be contacted at any given moment, night or day by a customer, yeah. But on WhatsApp, Messenger, Snapchat, Instagram messages, TikTok messaging, email, occasionally I'll get a letter. Have you seen those recently? Yeah. Right. So, and I think the lines are sort of a bit blurry around when work starts and when work finishes. Now, you want your team to be flexible and you want your team to be able to do things, but realistically, I think that's where there's a lot of pressure has been put on people, I think.
But if you were a farmer just like someone said this
An
and that.
industry with very high mental health issues.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. There you go. Another fact for you. If I was a farmer, and I heard this analogy once, and it's always really sat with me. When I go and do my farmery things, I'm not pretend like I know what a farmer does, right? They go out, but let's say the sheep go out in the fields all day, they do their thing. And then at night, we bring our sheep, we lock the pen, we put the sheep to bed, and off we trot. The next day, we go back, we open the gates, ta-da, our sheep are still there. Why do we feel any differently about what our job is? We do not save lives, we save PDFs, right? We do not need to be available 24 hours a day. What we need to do is have boundaries. And the only people that can create those boundaries are yourself.
But I agree. I know I agree with that. But also
Lock it away, sheep away.
But the problem is the world doesn't now run like that. You know, we had an instance with a client where we were working on a project and they had a big event the next day. Some last minute changes came in after a run through that hadn't been picked up. It was 11 p.m. You know, we were leaving for the job at 7. We had to get into the office at 6, but we needed to be aware of the changes to get into the office at 6 to send the files over.
But that should be the exception.
It
not
is the
rule.
exception. It is the exception, but these things happen. So it's very difficult to put it in a box like it used to.
Just to step in, there will be a lot of people watching this screaming, middle class, metropolitan liberal elite. There's an epidemic of wokery and snowflakes in the world. Where's the people talking about the real issues of small businesses and how we cope with the mental health epidemic, a word used in the national press on a regular basis? I mean, my experience of corporate life, no names mentioned, was attention to mental health wasn't good. Don't expect to speak about where you work at the moment, but what is your impression of, while there are lots of bodies who help with mental health, Agents Together, Property Mark Trust, all brilliant organisations, what about the business attitude towards mental health?
I think it's changing. I think there is so much more of a recognition for bigger businesses to know that they need to and want to look after their employees. I think mental health rightly is now on the agenda so much more than it ever has been. But I also think that we all as individuals have to take responsibility for ourselves and our own mental health and speak up if we need support from our employers, yes. But the whole premise around work-life balance and what's stress for one and stress for the other, it is very, very individual. You know, for me personally, I don't work a Monday to Friday 9 to 5 because that doesn't work for me and for my life. So if somebody sees me working on a weekend, they may go, well, we maybe should have shut the sheep in the pen. But actually for me, it works better that I can pick my little boy up from school on a 3 o'clock. Therefore, the balance for me looks quite different. So I think it's about understanding yourself, your own boundaries, putting those in place clearly, asking for help. You talked about there's an awful lot of support now within this industry, Agents Together, Women in Estate Agency, etc. There's lots of people you can talk to, but I think at a corporate level, the board now have this as an agenda because it's so important. At the end of the day, none of these bigger businesses, or any business for that matter, is going to be successful without their people. So why is that not such an important topic of discussion and topic of focus for any organisation to look after their people?
I think it's also clearer that there's a better business case for it now as well. It's a two-way street. It's not all just about, it is primarily about taking care of the individual, but I think business owners are now clearer on the fact that if they take care of their people, it will also benefit their own business.
Well, we're talking about costs, and we're talking about the costs of running business. We're talking about the costs of, increasing costs, this, that, and the other. The cost of acquisition of a new member of staff, a new colleague who you've got to put more time, more energy, and all that other stuff in, right? We need to be looking after the people we have, to ensure that the longevity and the loyalty in their business. And also, the more flexible you are as business, the more loyalty you garner, the better your workforce will be, and the more, and the more, and it's all around productivity and loyalty and trust and
I had this
all that
conversation
stuff.
yesterday with a an estate agent, a Martin & Co franchisee actually, and he said to me yesterday, I had a property manager within my business and she went off to start a family. She wanted to come back, but she wanted to come back on her terms that worked for her and her family. And that meant that I needed to change some processes and procedures within my business to make sure that would work. But my starting point was, yes, I'll make that work. And the result of that is I know that I've got somebody on my team who is loyal, who will work harder than anybody else, who will do everything for this business to thrive. And that's the mindset shift. Yeah. Start with yes and figure out how to make that happen, and your team will thank you for it and work harder for it.
You have beautifully segued us into the next section,
Yeah.
which is a really good one. Again, we'll get into, I know you've got other points to make as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only point I would make is that a final point, agreeing with Kirsty, the issue for me is that managers often think that their team work for them, and it's actually backwards. Your managers and your business owners work for your team because the team have free will. Business owners do not have that free will. We are in it, do or die, until we either sell, retire, or something else happens within the business, all right? Stuff it.
Which leads us into the next one.